Welcome to the WSDOT Project Management Guide training. Project Spin Plan. Congratulations! You're starting a new project and you need to know how to prepare a project spin plan. Be prepared. Be sure to review the WSDOT Cost Estimating Manual for projects. This will help you prepare your project cost estimate in today's dollars before you start your spin plan. Make estimating a priority and utilize appropriate time and resources. Another great resource is the WSDOT Project Management Guide website. Click on the Cost Budget icon. Here you will find many resources, from templates, tools and materials, training, examples, contacts, and more for cost estimating, budgeting, and spin plans. What is a project spin plan? A project spin plan is a schedule with the amount you plan to spend each time period, separated by fund sources. It is a detailed spending schedule. Time periods are usually months, but can be years or even weeks. Funds will be divided into preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction, with separate lines for federal, state, and other sources. You should have already developed your project estimate using one or more of the many tools WSDOT has for this. To recap, you should have a preliminary engineering base estimate in today's dollars. This is your budget for your entire design phase, including environmental, permitting, consultants if any, communications, open houses, survey, right-of-way plan preparation, and all specialty services and subject matter experts that will be charging their time through final design closeout. Don't be caught off guard with the potentially significant expense of the advertising phase of work. Scope changes. This is an allowance for changes to your project as design progresses. Known risks. This is where you account for your known risks that can cause your estimate to go up. Using the Cost Risk Assessment tool and/or Cost Estimate Validation Process tool will help refine this part of your cost estimate. Escalation. This includes inflation and other cost influences. Escalation translates portions of your estimate from today's dollars to year of expenditure dollars. This constitutes your year of expenditure preliminary engineering estimate. Your right-of-way estimate is comprised of the base estimate in today's dollars. This includes real estate services staff time and/or a consultant to assess the various real estate needs, prepare all the documentation, purchase the properties and/or easements, and finalize the documentation with the county and state. Some known risks and some escalation to the year of expenditure. Your construction estimate is comprised of the base estimate in today's dollars. This includes WSDOT's contract administration, including the management, inspection, compliance monitoring, closeout, and nearly everything in the construction phase, including the contractor's payments. It also includes below-the-line costs and taxes. Some known risks. An escalation to the year of expenditure. How to develop my project spin plan. 1. The bell curve method. This is a top-down method. And 2. The full-time equivalent forecast method. This is a bottom-up method. Your spin plan is a schedule of dollars spending spread out over time. Charting dollars against time as a straight line is an easy method, but not very realistic. We know there are always ramp-up periods, with rapid spending at times and slowdowns at other times. A more realistic method is using various bell curves. For the bell curve method, you need to know the various typical curves that are seen in our spin plans. The bell curve, a typical, approximately symmetrical, bell curve. The double bell curve. This represents a quick ramp up to rapid spending, with a slower spend rate in the middle of the phase, followed by a return to rapid spending before closing out the phase. The bell curve with a right skew. This would be when you are slow to ramp up the spending, but spend rapidly just before the phase ends. The bell curve with a left skew. This would be when you start spending rapidly and then slowly taper down. The double bell curve with a right skew. This has a double hump shape with the predominant hump towards the end. This is similar to the bell curve with a right skew, but with a slow down near the middle of the phase, before again ramping up the spend. The double bell curve with a left skew. This has a double hump shape with the predominant hump towards the start. This is similar to the bell curve with a left skew, but with a slow down near the middle of the phase, before again ramping up the spend. Each of these curves are just a starting point for this effort, and you can adjust them in any way that fits your project. Note that you can use a different curve for each phase of your project, or a blend of multiple curves. How to start a project spend plan using the bell curve method. You need an outline of your schedule with the major milestones. You should know when preliminary engineering was authorized to start, and you should know your approximate advertisement date. While every project is unique, you can most likely assume the preliminary engineering, including environmental and permitting, will occur between these two milestones, and likely extending a few months past the add date to accommodate final preliminary engineering closeout. Find the approximate midpoint of your preliminary engineering spend. Let's assume a double bell curve right skew for this phase, and place it here. Now, spread that curve out between these two milestones. Now focus on the right-of-way phase, which must be complete before advertisement, often 1 to 6 months before the add date, and the phase may start a few years before that. Remember, even if your project doesn't require any property purchases, you likely will still need temporary construction easements, which can still take time. Ask the Real Estate Services Office for recommendations on this. The earlier you can start this phase, the better. But remember, you must have your right-of-way plan approved before you can start this phase. Find the approximate midpoint of your right-of-way spend. Let's assume a bell curve right skew for this phase, and place it here. Now, spread that curve out between the dates this phase will occur. Construction is usually the largest portion of a project budget. The construction office can help you determine approximately how long construction should last. This will give you your construction complete milestone. And now, you can determine your approximate midpoint of construction spend. Let's assume a traditional bell curve for the construction phase, and place it here. Now, spread that curve out between these two milestones. Now you have the time frames of when you plan to spend the dollars. Now, let's scale the plan to match your dollars. You should already have your preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction budget estimates in today's dollars. As a backcheck, for typical projects, the preliminary engineering budget should be approximately 10% of the construction budget, but can be higher for certain projects. There is no correlation to the right-of-way budget, which is unique to each project. You can now calculate the construction estimate escalation from today's dollars to the midpoint of construction to convert your estimate to that year's dollars. Escalation is the persistent rise in the cost of commodities, goods, and services due to a combination of inflation, supply and demand, and other effects such as environmental changes, engineering changes, technological changes, environmental effects, political, and other effects. The area under the curve equals your total budget. Divide the area under the curve into each separate year. Roughly estimate the percent of the budget for every year under the curve, including partial years. The sum must equal 100%. This is how our example might be estimated. Now, split out your escalated construction estimate into these annual pieces. Now you have your estimated spend plan for construction. Remember, the actual construction spend plan will ultimately be set by the contractor that is awarded the contract. Next, do the same for your preliminary engineering and right-of-way escalated budgets. The preliminary engineering escalated budget. The right-of-way escalated budget. Your complete spend plan might look something like this. With preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction estimates in escalated dollars, otherwise stated as year of expenditure dollars. This information can be tracked on your spreadsheet. You now can break each year's spend estimate into the 12 months and subdivided by each group that will be charging their time to the project. Break out the right-of-way and construction spend this same way. And break out each year likewise. Be sure to reassess and update your spend plan at least once during each milestone. The other method of estimating your spend plan is the full-time equivalent forecast method. The term full-time equivalent, or FT, is used to compare to a full-time employee, usually equivalent to a 40-hour-per-week employee for an entire month or year. For this example, we are talking about an FT for a month. For example, if you have 2 employees each working half-time, at 20 hours per week for a month, the 2 of them combined equals 1 FTE. It's not the number of employees, it's the number of 40 hours per week for a month equivalents. Start with a spreadsheet with years and months across the top. Focus first on the preliminary engineering phase. Next, identify each specialty group, subject matter experts, and consultants that will be charging their time and expenses to your project. Now, assign generic employee grades that you think will be needed. Engineer 4, 3, 2, and 1, Technical 3, 2, and 1, and any others. Assign full-time equivalents in % of FTEs. Focus on the design office staff first. Think about all the activities that may occur in your design and how your design office team may be involved with them and to what degree. From the launch of the project, kickoff meeting, field visits, scoping with specialty groups, subject matter experts, and possibly consultants, executive reporting meetings, lots of various meetings, surveys, stream and wetland identifications, various studies, data collection, geotechnical investigations and lab work, pre-design, open houses and public meetings, permit applications, value engineering, CVEP, workshops, constructability, right-of-way plans, 30%, 60%, 90% PS&E, CAD work, quality checks, advertise, and so many other items. Review the work breakdown structure, WBS, to help identify many of the work elements of your project. Then work on the other specialty groups. Be sure to discuss this with a senior member of those specialty groups and subject matter experts to make sure they agree with these estimates. You will eventually document a scope, set of deliverables, schedule, and a budget with each of them. See the WSDOT Project Management Guide website for more links to scoping with specialty groups and SMEs. Now, multiply each cell by the current average salary for that grade. Don't worry about salary escalation for the future years. We'll address that in a minute. This gives you your spend, month by month, in today's dollars. Do the same for the right-of-way estimate, consulting with the real estate services team and any other teams included in the right-of-way phase. The construction estimate will be estimated differently. Prepare a cost estimate for construction using one or more of WSDOT's cost estimating methods. See the cost estimating topics on the WSDOT Project Management Guide website for assistance on this. The construction estimate includes WSDOT's contract administration, office engineering, management, inspection, compliance monitoring, closeout, and nearly everything in the construction phase, including the contractor's payments. It also includes below-the-line costs and taxes. Before you hire consultants, you must know what deliverables you will need from them and what amount of budget you have for their services. See the scoping topics on the WSDOT Project Management Guide website for assistance on this. Side note: meetings. Communication is a great thing in managing a project. It's important to note that meetings are expensive and have a sizable impact to your budget. So, keep meetings just long enough to accomplish the meeting goals. Have a prepared agenda to stick to. Keep each meeting moving at a good pace. End early when you can. Keep meeting attendance reasonable. And cancel meetings when they are not needed. If a discussion gets lengthy or off-topic, suggest that discussion continue at another time so that the current meeting agenda can stay on track. Roll all your estimates into an annual spend plan, keeping preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction estimates separate. Your estimates are in today's dollars, so now you need to add escalation to each column. Add 1 year of escalation to your year 2 estimate, 2 years of escalation to your year 3 estimate, and so forth. See the cost estimating topics on the WSDOT Project Management Guide website for assistance on calculating escalation. You may also be asked to separate state funds from federal funds from any other specialty funds. WSDOT executives can assist with the best method of spending each of these types of dollars for your specific project situation. You now have your spend plan in year of expenditure dollars. Your complete spend plan might look something like this, with preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction estimates in escalated dollars, otherwise stated as year of expenditure dollars. What if your estimate exceeds your budget? Reality check time. This happens. Ask for an independent check of your work. Maybe you assumed more work than is needed, or maybe you are correct and the project is underfunded. If the latter is true, then immediately discuss this with your manager. Look at progressive design options to find a less costly way to achieve the intended scope. Perhaps advancing the schedule to construct the project sooner than you had estimated could save on escalation costs. Maybe you have too many staff members assigned to the project, or assumed too high a grade, salary of staff members? Inquire about additional funding sources. Look at opportunities to reduce the scope of work, albeit this is often the least preferred option. Maybe you can design the entire project, but only construct a logical portion, with the remaining scope programmed for future funding and hopefully, eventually constructed. Maybe you reduce the project limits, reduce the number of widgets, or otherwise pare down the project scope to still accomplish a sensible project. Most important, communicate your concerns to your leadership. Congratulations! You have just completed your project spending plan. To learn more, see the WSDOT Cost Estimating Manual